The fundamentals of espionage are in Jesus' original teaching.
The fundamentals of espionage are from Jesus.
That's what I would say.
Can you please explain this?
So there's a phenomenal story.
Does that turn off, though, when you're not in a field operation? Meaning, like, aren't you... We never really talked about this, but aren't you a religious guy?
So I'm a man of faith, for sure. And I'm a dad. Like, I've got lots of things that I can be ideological about. But you don't... Can be. Yeah, you don't turn off the objective side. Instead, you try to be... what's the word? You try to balance the two. I want my kids, for example, I want to encourage my kids' artistic endeavors. That's something I ideologically want to be able to do. I didn't get to do it as a kid. I was forced into a world of like strict, rigid education. I want my kids to be artists if they want to be artists, and athletes if they want to be athletes, and comedians or dancers or whatever the hell they want to be. And both of my kids are very artistic. But at the same time, I understand like they have to make money someday. So my parents understood the same thing. So for my parents, they were like, we're gonna belittle all of your artistic stuff, and we're gonna encourage all of your STEM stuff. Right? That was the world I grew up in. A lot of people.
Was that your stepdad more or your mom?
Both.
It was both.
Yeah, that was both for sure. And there's a lot of people out there who know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. They love to paint. Mom was like, yeah, you're good at painting, but you need to be good at math. You need to be good at reading. You need to be good at writing, right? Oh, I'm glad that you like history. You'll never get a good job in history. I need you to do have you thought about being an accountant or a lawyer instead? Right? Like we've been through that before. I don't want to do that for my kids. I want to give them space. But the objective side of me is like, if I'm going to give them space, somebody has to make the fucking money, which is a big part of why I'm so aggressive with my company, because I want to build the trust fund that can give my kids the space to explore whatever their interests are. That's my personal goal. Build the trust fund that supports the kids to do whatever they're going to do.
Do you ever worry about that causing like entitlement though?
Maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. Like it's not mine to worry about. What I can do is try to make sure that they don't grow up with an entitled mindset.
Yeah.
13 years old, 12 years old, like my oldest son is now. Like he has a hard time thinking about anything other than whatever other 12-year-old thinks about, right? When am I going to play next? How do I get out of my chores? Whatever else. When they're 18, 19, 20, and they actually can understand that concept, that's when real hard parenting starts.
How do you rectify, though, like, as you say, like being a man of faith, but also being a guy who, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm saying this is just how you kind of reflect it. Like also being a guy who's like, there's not really like good or bad, or especially all good or all bad. It's like, this is just how the world works. And if that guy's got to die because that makes things better, oh fucking well.
So it's actually a great question. And one of the things I've really loved doing is reading the Bible since CIA. Right?
Since CIA.
Yeah. Reading the Bible before CIA was a cool experience. Reading the Bible after CIA is a mind-boggling experience.
So you weren't reading it during?
I had better shit to do. Better shit to do during.
It's like, I got to go hang this guy. All right, please continue.
So if you think about some of the most famous quotes from the Bible, right? There will be poor always. Right? There will always be poor people. That's as objective as it gets. Why the hell are we trying to save them? What did Jesus say to do with the oil? Put oil on my feet, don't save it for others. Right? Because there's always going to be poor people. There will never be enough oil for those poor people, but to soothe my head and soothe my feet right now is worth your oil. Right? You go back through all of the Old Testament and you've got multiple examples of just war, multiple examples of eradicating entire populations just because a prophet believe that was what God wanted them to do, right? And it was justified. You've got, even among the tribes of Jews, you have tribes that were better than other tribes, right?
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
Tribes that were more important, more honorable, given higher esteem than other tribes. So you can see this pragmatism. You can see the hierarchy, even through the Bible, when you look at it through that objective lens. It's teaching us to be objective. I would argue, and I have argued, Jesus and many of his teachings, the fundamentals of espionage are in Jesus' original teaching.
The fundamentals of espionage are from Jesus.
That's what I would say.
Can you please explain this?
So there's a phenomenal story where Jesus is teaching a parable, and he says that the place to sit, when you go to a guest's table, right? You go to a guest's table, the the best thing to do is sit at the end of the table and then wait for the host to invite you to sit at their right-hand side, right? What's he teaching us there? He's teaching us to act humble, to be rewarded for the humility that you demonstrate, to actually elevate yourself to a status, a higher social status. That's a powerful lesson, right? Everybody out there now, the average Joe, is out there competing to try to prove that they're worth the seat at the side of the master. That's what they all want to do. That's why Instagram exists. That's why TikTok exists. That's why you see 1,000 people, all competing to be on reality TV shows. Because everybody wants to be famous. They all want to be, hey, I'm worth being at the right-hand side of the master.
Right.
Jesus is saying, no, put yourself at the end of the table, let the master invite you up. Because one of the things he says that's powerful about that isn't just that you sit at the right hand of the master, it's that every fucking other person at the table, that's a direct quote from the Bible, every fucking other person.
Right. I was going to let it go.
Everybody else at the table watches the master point you out, and they watch you walk past them. And all of that is additional influence and power, right?
Yeah.
It's just, who was Jesus Christ? He was God the Father. He's part of the Holy Trinity, come to earth as a man. If that's not disguise, I don't know what disguise is.
You're taking it literally.
And then he lived among the people, right? Carrying flesh and blood and a death, right? Carrying a life that could be taken away. All of that is a perfect parallel with what it's like to actually live and work undercover. Everybody around you believes you're one thing. You know you're not. And even though you break cover with some people, right? Just like Jesus broke cover and he told the people he was the Son of God. Even though you tell a few people what your true affiliation is, there's still a shadow of doubt. And they're still like, yeah, are you really? That's why he was denied, right? Paul denied him. Peter denied him. Somebody denied him. Peter.
I think it was Peter, yeah. 3 times. Right?
Yeah, right? So he was denied, even though Peter arguably knew the truth. So it's so powerful, man. And that's just like 2 quick examples. If you actually wanted to sit down and get geeked out with like a parallel Bible, we could find lots of examples.
I never heard someone explain it like that. That is interesting, though. Because it's also like, you look at history, that's powers cultivated by the guy who talks last too, which is very similar aspect to what you're saying. I was talking with someone about a really big guy that they had dealt with, like a big time person. Everyone would recognize him recently. And he explained that, this dude, if he sat down to the SAT, he'd get like a 1250. He's smart, but he's not like a genius or something like that. But he's like, no matter what meeting you go into or what the context is, doesn't matter if there's 3 people there or 15 people there, he's the last motherfucker to talk. And it's not just because he's waiting his turn. He's listening and watching every single thing everyone else does, and it just puts everyone right in the palm of his hand at the end of it. And it goes back to it. It's like the most insecure person in the room is the one who's trying to be the loudest. Not like, make people laugh or whatever, but the person who feels like they got to be the center of attention. Whereas the powerful guy is the one who walks in and says, I'll let people, I'm comfortable with who I am. I'll let people land where they are on me. And it'll probably do well for me.
I think it's a fair way of looking at it. I would argue that it's not just about being comfortable in your own skin. Again, that's a subjective thing, right? Being comfortable. It means it's how you feel. Subjective has to do with how you feel, not measurable facts, right? So the person who's like, I'm comfortable with who I am, so I'm not going to speak. That's all well and good. If that's what you value, then let me pat you on the head and tell you congratulations. Congratulations, you're confident. You're one of the people that probably bought one of those books about confidence or watched the TEDx talk about confidence. Hooray, you're confident. You're fucking not confident, right? We don't want confidence. That's something that we've been sold. What we want is competence. We want competence. If we have competence, we don't feel the need to act confident because we fucking know we're good. Right? But when you don't know you're good, then you're looking for confidence. You're like, oh, please give me the confidence because I doubt my competence.
Yes. Oh, I agree with this.
What 100%. I would argue with is that the person who sits in the room and doesn't talk understands that they're getting information superiority of what's going on in the room.
Exactly.
Even if they don't feel confident, they still objectively are getting the most information without creating any disruption to the flow of information in the room. So there's 2 benefits there. You get the most information, and you're the least likely to be remembered for being present in the first place. So now you can walk out of that room, and everybody else in the room, when they remember the meeting, will remember all the assholes who were talking and not the person who collected all the information and left.
And that's where the subjective confidence doesn't matter because the end result to everyone else is that you're. You know what I mean? So like how you feel, I guess that's like up to you, but I see what you're saying.
Yes.
So you read the Bible a lot after CIA. Like
when I say after CIA, I mean after going through the farm, right? Not after my CIA career.
Oh, so after going through the farm.
I've been a man of faith ever since I joined the military, right? I was saved during my time in the military.
You were saved?
Yeah, my rebirth. Right?
What happened?
I was a good friend of mine, actually. So I was raised in a very non-religious house. I would call it an anti-religious house. My mother was a Mexican Catholic who hated the Catholic Church in the way that so many Mexicans get angry at the Catholic Church, but still exercised Catholic practices, right? She still had Catholic guilt, and she still made sure we went to church on Easter and Christmas, that kind of stuff. So, but she was like really opposed to organized religion. My stepdad was a Vietnam vet who also came back and basically was like, God doesn't exist. He's not real. After what I saw in Vietnam, none of that shit's real. So I was raised in a household that taught myself and my sisters, if you believe in God, you're weak. If you believe in religion, you're weak, right? You're stupid. It's the opium for the masses. You're going to be ignorant your whole life if you actually believe in some kind of religion. So 8, 9 years old, that was the message. That was the lesson. So I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to be weak. So religion must be wrong. So I was just parroting that shit all through my like young adult life. I joined the Air Force at the Air Force Academy at 18. My first year at the Air Force Academy, there's a guy that lived next to me. His name is Meredith Jessup. And Jessup was, I think he was from Alabama, African-American guy, big Jesus loving American, right? And I treated Jessup like shit all the time. It's like, don't you know you're stupid? Don't you know you're ignorant? Don't you know it's just it's the opium of the masses? Just parroting all this shit to him. And for a whole year, this poor son of a bitch lived next to me. And for a whole year, this guy never, like, in front of me at least, he never cracked. He never fought back. He never argued with me. He never did anything except just show patience and forgiveness and love and his own opinion. By the end of probably 6 months, I was like, well, there's something to this Jessup guy. Like, we didn't call each other by our first name. Like, there's something to this guy. Like, how is he so kind? How is he so friendly? How can life happen to him all the time, right? He's also trying to figure out dating. He's also trying to figure out life at the academy. He's also passing and failing tests just like I am, but he doesn't seem to be like nearly as volatile or dynamic in his day-to-day as I am. What's this guy doing different? I was like, could it be his faith? That seed stuck with me the entire time I was at the academy. And I started observing people who were Christian, people who were Mormon, people who were Catholic, people who were like devout in their faith versus people who were, culturally part of their faith, cultural Catholics, cultural Jews, that kind of thing. And I kept seeing this trend where I was like, these fucking people of faith are like stable and the rest of us are less stable. Fast forward to I graduate. And one of my closest friends, a guy named Ian Slasnick, gets married right out of the Air Force Academy, which is to me absolutely insane. You go 4 years without women, and then 3 months.
Idiot. Good, more for you and me.
3 months after you graduate, you lock yourself down to one of them. I was like, that's insane.
Well, statistically, it'll be a few years.
But I wanted to do something really special for Ian's wedding present, and Ian was one of those men of faith, those stable, like God-fearing men that I had been with for 4 years, one of my best friends at the Air Force Academy. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read the Bible. I'm gonna journal my way through the entire Bible, and I'm gonna give that to him for a wedding gift, right? So I was like, I have 14 months to do this. Let's make it happen. So I actually, as stupid as this sounds, because I'm still artistic in my soul, I learned calligraphy so that I could write him a journal in calligraphy, journaling my journey through the Bible. And that's what I did. I built it for him and I wrote it for him and I gave it to him on his wedding day, 14 months later. And it was in the middle of Psalms that I took Jesus into my own heart, that I was like, holy shit, like I am convinced now. I see what this is. I see God as the perfect, or Jesus as the perfect propitiation for our sin. I see why I believe what I believe and how I believe it wrong. And I believe in Jesus Christ. So I was saved.
It just happened like that.
To you, it sounds like it just happened to me.
But it built up.
It was a journey through the Bible, right? Yeah. Hearing God's voice and taking it to prayer and experiencing it myself. And I gave that journal to Ian on his wedding day, and like he flipped through 3 or 4 pages, heard the story, like started crying on his wedding day and gave it right back to me and said, you can't give this to me. Like, this has to be for you. And to this day, I still have it. My wife is actually, when I met my wife, who's Buddhist, my wife saw it. She read it. She was like, we can never lose this. So she's created digital copies. She's scanned copies. She's got the thing protected. Like,
and she's still Buddhist?
And she is still Buddhist, but this is another reason why I'm so firm in my faith, because I watch my wife ask questions and engage in more Christian thinking every day.
Christian thinking.
Yeah, rather than Buddhist thinking, right?
Can you explain the cross pattern?
The cross path there. So
I'm less familiar with Buddhism.
So Christians believe that there was a man named Jesus Christ who came to earth, who died on the cross without committing a sin as the perfect propitiation for the rest of us, meaning his sin replaced all of our sin, so we can go to heaven if we believe that he was sinless on the cross, right? He died for us so that we can be eligible for heaven. Otherwise, we live in a fallen world. We belong to the devil. God wants us to come to him. Jesus is the way that we come to him. I mean, I'm sure that there are theologians out there that can say it better. Say it in the comments. I'm the one on the podcast. That's my understanding. Buddhists believe every decision you individually make creates karma.
Yes.
Karma that helps or karma that hurts you. And that you will be responsible for whatever the karmic repercussions are of your decisions, right? There's no person who came that makes your sins clean. That's what we believe. In Buddhism, you have to make your own karma clean. So if you're a fucking asshole right now and you die, then you're reborn again and you have to pay the penalty of being a fucking asshole in a previous life that you don't remember. Right? So all the karma that you built up, all the debt that you build up, you have to pay back in some future life. And then you're reborn, right? You don't remember your rebirth. You don't remember why you're suffering, but you are suffering. So then that gives them comfort. Oh, I'm suffering now because I'm paying back karma from a previous life, and hoorah, I'm going to have a better life the next time I come back. Not that I'll remember my new life. So it's this constant balance book, this checkbook that goes back and forth. And then there's this idea of Buddhahood and enlightenment, where you can become enlightened, and during that enlightenment, you understand how the universe works, and you can go on to nirvana, and you can be, a bodhisattva, and be clear, and be outside of the cycle of karma, and et cetera, et cetera. Again, some Buddhist theologian can correct me in the comments because I'm the one talking. That is my understanding of both. What I have found is that my kids, myself, my family, asks less questions about Buddhism and more questions about Christianity. I see. Right? And as we go through our life, there are areas where we see the idea of forgiveness and the idea of intelligent design and a God creator. We see these things represented in daily life more than we see the pillars of Buddhism. And as a result of that, my wife is still Buddhist. I'm not going to call her a Christian by any means, but she certainly shows more and more interest and curiosity in the Christian faith every day. Like it's for anybody who's ever seen it play out, it's one of the things where you don't want to get involved because you want everybody to be on their own journey. I want my son to have his own journey, my daughter to have her own journey, my wife to have her own journey. I had my own journey, right? And that's part of the relationship they get to build with God. That's what I believe.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.